Welcome to one of the wet and windiest places on the planet, the west coast of Scotland. Behind me here is the Isle of Skye bridge that I'm going to be taking shortly to begin a little adventure around the island. Hopefully the weather's not going to be like this for the whole trip. Hopefully we get some time to do some fishing on the Sib, and I have my van here. It's going to be my base camp for the next, well, however long I can put up with this weather, let's just say. But anyway, I'm going to get out of this and get on with some fishing. Let's do it. Here we are at Staffin Harbour on Skye, and we have the first decent day of weather where I can get out on the Sib. Let's just take a quick look at it. It is a 3.4 metre SeaPro paired up with a 9.8 horsepower Parson 4-stroke. Quite a nice lightweight setup this. It's the first time that you'll see me use it, and it's a nice boat because it's so light compared to the alley deck that I've been using. It's very manageable for myself to launch. So yep, that's just how I've loaded it up. I have got a fish finder there because I think I'm going to need it fishing this new ground. Fishing a new area can be really exciting but also quite daunting, especially when you don't have anyone to ask where should you start. I mean, there's obvious places to start here because there's so many islands and rocky little outcrops, but Navionics is going to be my best friend today. It's going to show me where the good bits of reef are, or what I interpret to be good bits of reef by the way that they appear on the charts. So I've sort of spotted a few likely looking lumps about a mile offshore that I reckon could be quite productive on the lure. So we're going to head out there now, and it's looking lovely and calm across this sound, I would guess you could call it. And I don't think we're going to have too much chop, but there's a little bit of a breeze, so the drift could be fast. I mean, that's what you've got to take into consideration on a Sib. When it's windy, you're going to drift exceptionally quickly. But hey, let's go give it a try. It's not far, so I'm going to get a little bit of speed going here. And yeah, let's check out these lumps of, I don't know if they're reef or what, but let's head out there and see what is holding. This has to be some of the most incredible scenery I've had in a backdrop to one of my videos. It is just, well, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's incredible. And there's not another soul out here. It's almost scary in a way. Of course, I've got my VHF radio with me, but I'm not used to being out and not seeing any other boats. But hey ho, that might just mean that there's a lot of untapped fishing potential. Well, nowadays I'm finding myself doing a large bulk of my fishing with a light spinning outfit like this. This one here, it's just a 7'6" rod with a 3,500 reel. And you know, this rod is great because I can cast a 15-gram lure with it. And at the same time, I can drop a 100-gram jig like this one here. And that's what I'm going to do to start off with. I'm going to start by dropping a jig on this pinnacle and just bouncing it right on the bottom. Probably going to snag up, but that's what I want to do. I want to fish hard on the bottom and see what's lurking on it. I mean, we're coming from 60 meters up to 30 meters. I have no idea what this could be, but didn't take long on the first drift, and it's just like a dead weight, this. It's got the rod proper bent though. I can be a pollock. Just can't be. What is that? Whoa! That is a huge cuckoo wrasse. My goodness. Well, this is a colourful way to get the trip started. That is gorgeous. I catch a lot of these back home in Cornwall, but I mean, in my experience, that is a big cuckoo wrasse. In fact, I'd almost go as far to say that's one of the big ones I've had, and also one of the most pretty cuckoo wrasse I've ever had. I mean, there is blue, green, pink, a bit of everything going on there. So what an awesome way to get the trip started. Beautiful cookie wrasse. We've got some visitors, guys. I'm not sure what they are. They're not dolphins. They're not like the dolphins I'm used to anyway. There's only 3 of them. Are we going to see them on camera? Who knows? I could hear them. When you hear that breathing sound of a marine mammal, there they are. So what on earth is that? If anyone knows what they are, let me know in the comments. Very small fins. They could be dolphins, but they're not the dolphins. There we go, there's another one. They're not the dolphins that I see down in Cornwall. They're a little bit smaller. Just as inquisitive though. They're really interested in the boat. Yeah, beautiful. They could, yeah, I don't even really want to say what they could be because I just have no idea. But that's a lovely thing to see. There was one just there then, getting closer and closer to the boat. I can see the disturbances on the surface of where they are. All right, now let's just take a little look at the performance of this 3.4 meter air deck sib with an inflatable V-hull. There's not a lot of swell. I'd say there's hardly any swell, but there's a little bit of wind seat. And it's sort of a good conditions to test how a sib responds at different speeds. And that displacement speed, I mean, it's comfortable. I just got to shift my weight up a little bit. Very important on these smaller boats to balance your weight. And we're up on the plane. Up on the plane, half throttle on a 9.8. Not bad at all. And she's skipping along nicely at this speed. We're probably doing around 14 knots. 12 to 14 knots. Gonna open her up a little bit. There's a bit of spray, that's from my transducer. I have trimmed the outboard up a few shots. There we go. We're giving her some now. Fantastic. Great performance for a small light boat. And there we are, pretty much flat out. And we are shifting now. Flat out. And I tell you what, I've got a bit of side wind here, but this boat is not complaining one bit. But these are really nice conditions to be out in, even though there's a bit of wind. If I can have this for most days on my trip, I'll be happy. Well, the wind was really starting to pick up out there, and the drift just wasn't working for lures. I couldn't get any decent pollock, so what I've decided to do is come right in close to this uninhabited island here and just try drifting along the sort of rocky sort of edge of it here, because it could hold some decent fish. I just don't know. I have no idea about this whole area, but I've seen a seal already, and there's a lot of cormorants over there feeding, so that is a sign that there's you know, a concentration of sort of bait, and therefore hopefully some bigger fish here. But yeah, it's nice and sheltered as well from the wind, which makes a big difference when you're lure fishing. You really want a nice slow drift. I mean, with the tide it's different. It's good to have a good drift with the tide, but you don't want the wind pushing you very much. So I'm gonna have a go with some smaller soft plastics. So we're in fairly shallow water here, but it drops off so quickly. It's incredible. I mean, we've only got to drift another 30 meters, and that is literally the depth that we're in then. Drift 30 meters and we'll be in 30 meters. Yeah, that's a fish. Didn't take long, did it? Great sport here on the pollock. Oh, not a bad one. And I've got my drag locked up so tight because I don't want them running me into the snags here. Just because I'm unfamiliar with the ground. I don't know when a big lump of rock's going to stick up. But yeah, still having good fun on them on this lighter rod. Just letting the rod, the curve of the rod, do the fight instead of the drag. Not a bad fish, this. Oh, look at that bend. And this is a lovely rod as well. I mean, it's got such a nice curve in it. That is a, tell you what, that's a bloody good pollock. So yeah, just for anyone that's not familiar, there's a wrong and a right way to gill a pollock, and you've got to get it in that first bit there that the lure just pops out, because if you put your finger in these gill rakes, your hand's going to be shredded. That's a nice pollock. Fine fish, especially considering we're in 10 meters of water there. 10 meters of water, and I mean, look how close we are to the island. Yeah, that's a better fish actually. Certainly putting a nice bend in the rod. And as I said, really locked up on the drag here, just letting the rod do the hard work. This was fishing vertical, just dropping the lure straight down. Whoa. You always know it's a good pollock when they come torpedoing out of the water like that. The small ones never do it. We're just getting perfect hookups every time here. There is a way you can hold them without putting your hands in the gills, but it's hard work on the bigger fish, and that's just putting your thumb and finger behind the fins there, and you can sort of get a nice grip on them. Wasn't a big one, but well, I've just noticed this I guess you could call it like a natural harbour here. It's just one big gully, and it's quite deep actually. It says it's 10 meters. Let's see if there's any fish in here. It's kind of a bit of a funny place to fish, but it's just so calm in here. Beautiful rocks as well. Just thought I'd have a little try. See if there's any pollock in this little natural harbour. Hey, it's beautiful. Oh, got a knock then. Yeah, there is. Fish on. Oh, fish on. Oh, it's not a bad one actually. It's going some. Whoa. Tell you what. Considering I came in here on a bit of a whim, that's not a bad little fish there. Lovely kelp pollock. That's a proper kelp pollock, that is. When they've been living in the kelp, they go that sort of like orangey, bluey, marbled colour. You just don't get that in deeper water. Beautiful. In this little natural harbour. I've come into the bay here at Staffin just to get a bit of shelter from the wind, and it looks like it's a big open sandy bay, and to me that sort of screams flatfish, and I've got a couple of mackerel that I caught on the jigs earlier, so I'm going to do a bit of drift fishing with a leisured mackerel flapper bait in this big open bay, and I got the wind pushing me in a nice direction across it, and that should give me a nice bit of drift just to sort of entice a couple of fish. So I just wanted to show you one thing that I've picked up recently to sort of reduce the amount of mess that bait creates on a sieve, because I am one of my big hates is bait fishing on a sieve. It's just such a filthy activity. I've got one of these I don't even know what you call it, but it's like a foil insulated bag with a little chopping board and a knife, so that all of my bloody mess literally blood and guts from the mackerel is contained within that bag instead of all over the deck and cool box or whatever it might be. I just want to keep it contained in there. That is the theory behind it. Anyway, so I'll just show you the rig that I'm going to be using. I've talked about this rig many times before, but it's just a simple running ledger rig. We've got a 4-ounce watch lead on a slider there, coming down to a trace, which I don't like fishing a long trace for flatfish at all. 2 foot, in my opinion, is enough. But the most important part of the whole rig, and I should say that the trace is 20-pound fluoro, but you can go lighter. The most important part is the hook when you're fishing for flatfish. You have to use a good hook. It has to be very sharp, and I really like these 1/0 Cox and Rule specimens. And then all I'm going to do, and there's a lot of debate about how to hook the flapper. This is the belly section, the nice silver bit. That's my favorite bit to use, but I just nick it in the top, literally in the very top, so that the hook's exposed. Some people nick it through the thin end. I like to nick it through the fat end. That's just how I do it. And then I got quite a beefy setup for this. It's a 20-pound ugly stick with a 6,500 pence slammer. Way overkill for flatfish, but I brought this along with me today because I thought, well, if I do end up fishing in some deeper water and the lures aren't working, I can fish a bit of bait or, you know, hook eyes or something like that. So what I've done is, we're not in very deep water here. It's probably only about 6 meters, but I'm letting out lots and lots of slack line because you want that weight dragging along the bottom, that watch weight. You want it dragging along and kicking up a bit of sand and creating a little bit of disturbance. What you don't want is, you don't want the weight lifting up and dropping, because then your bait's going to be doing that. And flatfish just don't really tend to take a bait unless it's hard on the bottom. And it's really important when you're fishing for flatties on the drift like this to watch for bites. I'm watching that rod tip all the time, and if I see just a slight change in the movement, because obviously it's going to be doing a lot of that when it's dragging along, if I see a slight change, what's this? My guess is it's seaweed. If I see a slight change, then what you've got to do is let a bit of line out, and that essentially is stopping the bait on the seabed. Even though you're still drifting, the bait is stopped and it gives the fish a chance to grab it. But yeah, I cannot stress enough how important it is to watch for bites when you're fishing on the drift for flatties. Maybe we will get one, maybe we'll catch something else, maybe we'll just get dogfish. Let's find out. First fish on the drift is this tiny little whiting. It's literally the size of my finger. And I think I'm going to just put him back down as live bait, just to see what's going to take a live whiting here. Be interesting to find out. When fishing on the drift, it's a perfect time to have something to eat and have something to drink. And well, it would only be right that I sample some of the local goods. So we've got Iron Brew, full sugar, of course, and the Navionics caramel log. Now, if you've never had one of these before, I recommend you get one. They are fantastic chocolate bars, if you can even call them that. But there we go, some brightly coloured sugary goodness to keep me going on what has become quite a cold, overcast day. Okay, so I've drifted a really long way, actually, all the way at the far side of the bay. I've just done one long drift, and I've been really consistent with fresh baits, and all I've got to show for it is some tiny whiting and a mackerel. Back at the Staffin Harbour slipway, and when I said earlier that it's a good slipway, it really is. I mean, I don't know many slipways that you can literally pull up right next to your boat, even at dead low tide. It goes all the way to the end there. So yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, it's been a great day exploring this area. The fishing has been just average. I've caught a few fish, but the scenery's been spectacular. So yeah, gonna get this one packed up into, I'm sort of debating whether to put it on the roof or put it in the back. I'm not made up my mind yet, but I'm just gonna sort of think about the winds tomorrow, because I don't want it on the roof. If it's really windy, I mean, that roof rack's great, but it's just a hazard when you're driving. So yeah, let's get it packed up. That's going to be the exciting part. I'll do that, don't worry. Well, I fancy spending the rest of the day chilling by the water's edge with some baits out and just putting my feet up, taking it easy. But the only problem is I haven't brought any bait up with me, and I did catch some mackerel earlier, but I've used all of that up, and I could probably go and catch some more mackerel, but I've just pulled in to this area where a river runs into a loch. And there's so many worm casts. You probably can't see them on camera, but when I look out over there, it's just full of worm casts. So I'm gonna have a little dig. I expect it's lugworm, but I've never dug in Scotland before, so I have no idea what to expect. And I'm at a bit of a handicap because all I've got with me is one of these folding shovels, and people have probably seen these before. You might even have one in your car. Well, yeah, I've got one with me in my van. I didn't want to bring a full-size fork with me, so this was just convenient. How well it's going to work for digging, I have no idea. It's definitely going to make life hard for me, but let's go have a look if there's any worm down there. And no, I'm not going to bring you with me because it's just hard work. Well, I was somewhat successful digging for bait there. Not only did I find some lugworm, I also found some ragworm. Let's just take a quick look at them. It's not exactly much to look at there because they're all in the mud, but we've got some small ragworm there. That's going to be good bait, and got quite a few lugworm. Lugworm is my favourite worm to use. So yeah, that should be enough there for a few hours. And what I'm thinking is go and find somewhere A, that's easy to access, and B, has some clean ground, and just fish the incoming tide with some worm baits. So there we go. This is Loch Snizzle, I believe. I don't know if that's pronounced right, but yeah, it's not really an estuary, but I'd always dig my worm around an estuary, and this is the closest you can get, I guess, to an estuary here in Skye. There's so much accessible coastline on Skye, it's kind of hard to pick where to fish, but I've chosen this spot just because it's quite a nice flat area here for me to set up a rod, and I've got sort of the wind coming down the loch like this, so hopefully it's going to sort of aid me in casting a little bit. And I believe where I'm casting into is clean ground, and it's not a particularly deep loch, this only casting into about 10 meters of water, but tell you what, it's a nice platform to fish here using my 12-6 4 to 6 ounce beach caster with a 6,500 reel loaded up with 70-pound braid, so very strong, way overkill. But that stuff doesn't really matter. What I think is most important is the rig. So I am not a particularly well-versed shore angler when it comes to bait fishing, and I only really use two rigs, the running ledger, and this is a pulley because it's got a pulley bead there and a long section of rig body with a slightly shorter section of 20-pound fluoro. And this is the business end here, so we've got 6 ounce gripper with the Gemini clip, splashdown clip or whatever it is, I don't really know. And this is my worm bait. So you can see that the worms have gone a little bit pale and they're a little bit sort of drawn out, I guess you could say. But what I'm doing is actually I'm using there you go, you can see a bit better now. I've got 2 lug and a little rag as a sort of enticer on the bottom, and that's mounted on a 1/0 hook. So just one hook, not a particularly big hook, and I'm gonna try and get that as far out as I can. That's the whole idea of using a clip down rig. Well, it really has been an uneventful couple of hours here on the bank with just a few starfish on the bait. I mean, I've not even really noticed a bite, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe the worm's not in great condition, or I don't know. There's no information about this spot. I've come here completely blind, so hey, it was just exploration, and it is actually a very nice easy, comfortable mark to fish, but just a shame about the lack of bites. So I'm going to pack up now and have a bite to eat, and then move on to the next spot via an interesting castle. Well, I know it's not fishing, but just look how cool this castle is. Just on my way to another mark, and I thought I'd stop in Dunvegan Castle here. Awesome bit of scenery, and such a well preserved bit of history right there. Tell you what, if you lived there, you'd be fishing off the walls, wouldn't you? All right, here we are at Meanish Harbour, or pier. Not really sure what to call it, but this is going to be the next launch venue. Not today though, it's a little bit windy still, but tomorrow is when I'm hoping I'm going to have some of the best weather of the trip so far, which is going to allow me to sort of push out a bit further to some of these headlands here and explore them and fish them thoroughly. But yeah, let's just have a little look around here. I think what I'm going to do is get the sib inflated this evening and have a bit of dinner, and then maybe take a lure rod out to that point there in a bit and just fish it with some lures and see what's lurking around it. But yeah, what a nice little area this is. Very, very quiet. Certainly not going to be a queue for the slipway in the morning. Well, I was just inflating the boat here, and I thought I'd show you the pump that I'm using, because even though it's quite a dull subject, they're really important bits of kit for us inflatable users. The one I'm using is the Outdoor Master from Maelstrom, and I really like it. It's got an integrated 12-volt battery, which so far is doing quite well. It's just over halfway charged, even though I've inflated this boat twice now with it. So a decent battery, and what's nice as well is it can be run from a 12-volt socket. So yeah, quite a useful little pump there, really easy to use with the digital display and the buttons there, and it just makes light work of inflating sibs such as this. All right, sib set up now for some dinner. Got these steak lawns. If you've never been to Scotland before and you're coming up here, I highly recommend you get some of these, as they're extremely tasty. So yeah, it's supermarket food for dinner tonight. Hopefully I can catch some fish for dinner tomorrow. Now, I could have kept some of the pollock that I've caught so far, but I just didn't really feel like it. So tomorrow, whatever I catch, whether it be pollock, pouting, dogfish, whatever I catch, I'm going to eat for dinner. As much as I'd like to get the sib out this evening and do a bit of exploration of this loch here, it's still a tad windy, and I just think if I go out now, I'm probably going to end up getting wet. And if there's one thing that's really important when you're camping, you know, even in a van, it's not to get wet before bed, because you end up sleeping very cold. So I've come out to this rather inviting looking piece of rock here, which is very conveniently situated, a short walk from my van, to throw some lures on my bass setup here. Not that I'm expecting bass here, but yeah, I'm going to throw some soft plastics and metals along this stretch of rock and harbour. I don't think it's particularly deep, but hey, let's do a bit of lure fishing and find out what's lurking at the end of the rocks here at Meanish. All right, here we go, fish on. Real close in there. I can see some bronze flashes. I think I know what it is. Whoa, look at that, going for the kelp. Yeah, pollock, beauty. Oh, tell you what, he went hard then when he got close. Right, let's try and hand line him up. It's not the easiest thing to do, but never ever try and lift a fish on the rod. I don't anyway. I use fairly nice rods, and I don't want to run the risk of snapping one. There we go. That's a nice looking pollock, isn't it? You can tell it's been living in the kelp. Proper dark colours with those orange blotches. Nailed the crazy paddle tail, like they always do, eh? Let's slide this one back. Well, it was just one lonely pollock for me this evening, but the sun was peeking through at one point, so I'm hoping that's a good sign for the weather to come tomorrow. And it certainly calmed off a bit. There was quite a bit of wind sea when I first arrived, and it's looking all right out there now. So I'm feeling keen for an early morning launch and getting out onto some deep rough ground. And I'm probably just going to focus on lures tomorrow. I might bring a bit of gear with me for fishing bait, but there are some, I'm guessing there's salmon farms that I can see out there, and if you can get away with tying off to the boys around the salmon farms, sometimes there's good fishing to be had underneath them. Yeah, I really fancy my chances in close on the sort of like ledges and drop-offs, and then going round to Nice Point Lighthouse if at all possible. It's dependent on conditions, but we've got a lot of water here to fish regardless. But yeah, I think that's me signing off for this evening, and I will see you in the morning for a day of SIB fishing. All right, here we go. It's not a bad morning actually. There's a light breeze from the south, but first bit of sun that I've really had the entire trip, so I'm grateful for that. Another pretty decent slipway here at Meanish Community Pier. It's looks like it'd be pretty accessible at all states of the tide here, so that's a good one to remember. And the boat is exactly as it was, you've seen it before. I've got it set up the same, and we're just going 2 rods, as I said, focusing on lures today. So I'm going to get it in the water now and head out to some of the headlands and start fishing with some lures. Well, I was just speaking to a local guy here. He was heading out on his boat for the day, and he was just telling me about some of the spots here. And I mean, local knowledge is by far the most valuable. And he was telling me about a few of the different headlands here, and about Nice Point Lighthouse, which is, you know, a little bit of a ways from here, but it's a possibility if the weather's good. And, you know, just talking about what sort of lure colours work well here. He was telling me some of the brighter colours that can be good here for pollock. But yeah, it's just really nice to have a chat with somebody that knows the area before heading out on it for the day. But yeah, nice stress-free launch there, super duper easy. Let's just have a little look at the harbour behind us here. Ready? There it is. That is Meanish harbour. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not, but yeah, nice little protected harbour there, and really easy launch. So if you're coming up this way, check that one out. Okay, we are at the first headland to the west of the slipway, and I've stopped here because I can see there's a hell of a lot of tide moving around this point here, because there's you know, standing waves, even though it's quite a calm day, and I'm on the calmer stretch now, but it really does get a bit rough out there, so I've got to watch that. It's going to get uncomfortable if I get that far out. But straight away, good signs of life. There's gannets diving, hitting bait on the surface, and seals feeding. So yeah, even though we're quite close into shore here, this could be a good area to start off with. And you know, we're in 30 meters of water here, within what is essentially casting range of the shore. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot of tide moving, so I think it could be a good place to start off. Found a fish straight away, first drop. Just wasn't having much luck with the soft plastics, and it's quite a quick drift actually here on this point. Hell of a lot of wind, much more than I was expecting. And I just thought, well, I should have no problems getting down with a jig at least. Just a small pollock to start off with here. But that's all right, because we can certainly improve on that. Just a little one. It's what I was hoping to catch today, just a little bit smaller. I mean, I'd like to get something for dinner. That might just feed one, but I'll put him back. 2 mackerel on 1 jig. This is why I got fed up with fishing with jigs last time, because I was just getting a mackerel every drop. Which, I suppose it's a fish, but... And I suppose I could eat a mackerel if I got hungry. I do like mackerel, they're good eating, but... just fancy something a little bit more flavoursome, which isn't really the right word, because mackerel have a lot of flavour. But, yeah. The jig is working well, because I can feel it fishing hard on the bottom, but... I've just been catching a lot of mackerel and some small pollock on it. So, yeah, I mean, I can see the lighthouse now. The lighthouse is over there on that point. So it's not a million miles away. I'm just being a bit of a... I'm just being a bit cautious, that's all. Just because it's all new to me, and there's not many boats here at all. If something goes wrong, there is some sort of research vessel out there towing something along, but I've seen 1 fishing boat so far this morning. Oh yeah, it's not a bad fish. Changed up to the colour that is, like, in my opinion, just the most unnatural colour you can get, but they seem to love it, you know, pollock, fishermen. What have we got? Yeah, a nice big pollock. Oh, not a bad fish, tell you that. You'll see the lure that I switched up to. There we go. On the rhubarb and custard. I was just speaking to a chap at the harbour earlier about the rhubarb and custard colour. But hey, it works, doesn't it? It's the best fish I've had all day. Not a bad one. Put him back, because it's probably a little bit too much for just myself. So yeah, I just switched up to this crazy paddle tail 180 size with the 55 gram head. Good, really good lure for finding the better fish, that one. When you can fish it, you know, in a bit of depth, it really is a good lure. And I like all of the colours, but I was just speaking to a guy about rhubarb custard at the harbour, and he was like, yeah, it's a good colour. And I thought, well, it's not the sort of colour that I'd normally use, but yeah, if that's what a local guy's saying, then I'm going to listen to that. Oh yeah, oh, whew. Another one then. Yeah, oh, come on, they're being real fussy. Oh, that's one. Just found a little patch here where there seems to be quite a few fish, as I slowly work my way around the headland here, which is nice. Sort of trying to get my confidence up whether I go to the lighthouse or not, because the thing is it's a long way to go, and then not fish it because of the conditions. No, the pollocks. Oh. No, he's just bit the tail off. Ah, oh. Literally just seen the tail. Whoa. Ah, that was doing well for me, that was. So there we go. That's a bit more like the sort of size that I want for dinner. But it's early in the day, so I'll put him back. Even though he bit off my tail. How did he do that? I have no idea. But yeah, that's a sad looking lure now. Alright, well I have to switch over to the head cam at the moment because there's just so much going on. I want to try and capture some of it for you guys. So I found a really decent drift now, working along this rather steep looking cliff face here, and I could hear the breathing of a marine mammal, and you know, sometimes it's hard to know what it is, but I've seen it. It's a whale, and it was so close to me at one point. I think it's feeding around this area because it keeps coming up and down. and I would love to try and capture it for you guys, and I have no idea what it could be. I'm not very good at identifying whales, so if we see it and you know what it is, let me know in the comments. But I don't know if it's gonna poke up again. It was breathing a lot, so it's probably diving down again to feed, and there's so much mackerel in the area, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what it was feeding on, because he's out into the deeper water where it's like 60-70 meters out there, and I'm in here where it's sort of like 30. And obviously whales, they're just not quite as inquisitive as dolphins in my experience, so I can't really expect him to come to the boat. We might just get lucky if we go past it though. Well, this is some really nice looking ground, so I reckon this is as good a place as any to start the drift. It's quite a quick drift actually. I'm not sure if it's the tide or the wind doing most of the work there, but it's we're going along at half a knot or so, and I've come over now to a black minnow. Look at this one, it's so beat up, you can tell this one's had a few fish on it. I think this is a number 4, I believe. And I mean, this blue colour is probably my favourite colour in the black minnow. Out of all of the colours that there are, I'd say for this sort of fishing especially, that blue is just going to look like a herring or a mackerel, you know, in that perfect sort of like 6-inch size. So we're in 26 meters of water. Look at those jellyfish there. 26 meters. Oh, straight away. Oh, is he on? Yeah, he's on. Look at that, straight away on the drop. Seems to be quite a few fish out here. All of a similar size, I must add. They're all around the sort of 4 to 5 to 6 pound range. There's the whale. Oh, I don't know if I saw it. I don't know if I lifted my head up in time, but there was the whale. I kind of don't want to look down at the fish in case he pops up again. And I think it's just one. Oh, there it is again. I don't know if you can see it. There was just a splash. He's about 100 yards away. Magnificent. He is coming towards me though. Hey, there's the whale again. Oh, you must have seen it that time. That couldn't have been a better shot. Coming right in close. And I've got a nice drift going along now. Yeah, we're pretty close. We're pretty close in to the cliff, but oh, there he is again. Oh my goodness. So what species of whale is that, everyone? Or anyone that knows, anyone that has an idea? Right answers only. Is he going to come up again? Yes, there he is. Oh my goodness. What a fantastic thing to see. And then in the distance there is the Outer Hebrides. I do believe that is Harris, and then Lewis over there. That is, I mean, it's the first time I've seen them, but it can only be the Outer Hebrides out there. What depth are we in now? I always keep glancing back at the old fish finder down there just to see, because it's such a sudden drop. I mean, I would almost say that is what it looks like underwater here. It's just like that, just goes from 30 to 70 so quickly. And all of my fish have been over the shallow water, over the sort of in the 20 to 30 meter range. I think all of my fish have come. I don't think I've really had anything in the deeper water, which is surprising for me, because usually I get the better fish back in Cornwall in the deeper water. Yeah, there's fish down there. Come on, take it. Yes, take it. There we go. Even turning the boat. And I know this is a pollock. It's all I've been catching today. Well, with the mackerel, but there seems to be the sort of predominant species of fish here, which is not a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting bass, but I was almost hoping that there might be some coalfish or cod, just something like that. Some of the other sort of cold water species that might take a lure. But yeah, still nice fun. Whoa! Look at it, it's so close. Oh wow, fish on. My goodness, it's almost, whoa. This whale is yeah, really showing me who owns this spot. Oh my goodness, that was a little bit terrifying, but so cool at the same time. Well, I'd like to think that the next fish is going to be dinner. So what's it going to be? Here we go. This feels like a pollock. Oh, it's not a bad one. Come up, there we go. Look at these cliffs. It's just epic. What have we got? Yeah, nice pollock. And in fact, that's actually going to be the perfect size for me. So I'll take that. It'd be a shame to take a fish and waste it, because I'm not really going to be keeping it for any length of time, just for my dinner tonight. So that is, even though it's not a very big pollock, that's the perfect size for me, and I'll both the fillets off of that and I'll eat it in one go. So yeah, that's dinner tonight. First drop at this spot as well. There's loads of fish down there on the sounder, but I'm going to take this one because I know that is a good eating size right there. I don't feel bad about taking it because it's not too small, and I don't feel bad about wasting it. It's not too big. So yeah, and sometimes these slightly smaller ones do taste a bit better. And there we go, back at the slipway. It's actually been quite a nice day today. I've really enjoyed it. Had a consistent sport on the pollock, and yeah, couple of species, even though they weren't the ones I was necessarily after. Still nice to get them. But yeah, this is a great little harbour here, I must say. It's a great little slipway, and I got here just in the nick of time, because I was just about able to pull the boat up up there. But yeah, it's a bit of a drop off after that, so just in the nick of time. And I think I'll be able to reverse the van down here and unload. So yeah, gonna get the fish prepared for dinner tonight. Well, this is where I'm going to be staying tonight. I've got a nice little backdrop here of some mountains on a quiet little road. Perfect. And yeah, let's just have a look at how we're going to prepare the pollock. I've not got the best setup here for cooking. It's all a bit sort of crammed in, but anyway, I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So I think pollock is quite a tasty fish, but it needs a bit of flavour added to it. So this pile here has got plain flour, curry powder, salt and pepper, and I've filleted and skinned the pollock, as you can see. There's a bit of seaweed from the slipway. That's where I did the filleting. I don't even clean the fish off when I fillet them. I just I just sort of keep all of that flavour in, and then we're just going to dry coat this fish here. So it's got a nice bit of flavour going from the curry powder mixed in with the salt and pepper, and then that flour is just going to give it a little bit of sort of crusty, sort of battery crispiness, which, you know, it goes a long way for a white fish. That does, in my opinion. Now I can promise you, if you cook white fish this way, it's going to smell amazing. When you've got that curry powder cooking with the fish, the smell that comes off is absolutely incredible. Well, here we go, dinner with a view, classic fish and rice. It's yeah, it's something to eat. It's a hot meal, I appreciate that. And yeah, just gonna mix it all together. One of them boil in the bags. Well, not even boil in the bag, it's just a bag of rice that you heat up, but yeah, it does the job, eh? Well, here we go, another day of wind and rain on the Isle of Skye, and this has been the story for most of my trip, really. It's been very hard to find windows to fish, particularly on the Sib. There's only been 2 days that have been weather that I would consider suitable, and I've had enough, if I'm honest. I'm gonna go back down south to sunny Cornwall. Get out of this weather, because I've been here for a week now, believe it or not, and it's just been consistently unpredictable. It's the only way I can describe it, and it looks like it's going to be like that for the foreseeable. So this is the end of my Skye trip, but it has been a fantastic week. I must say, I mean, the fishing has been interesting, you know, it's been exploratory, and I mean, the most that I've taken from it is just the stunning scenery that is here on Skye, and you know, being able to fish amongst that on a Sib is just, it is really magical, especially when you're one of the only boats out there. You feel like you've got it all to yourself. It's fantastic. So hopefully you've gotten a slice of that in this video, and you know, it might encourage people to come up here and give it a go. I mean, I cannot recommend the beautiful scenery and the not so beautiful weather enough. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you've learned anything, if you've enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Sure, somewhere it'll be a bit sunny and warmer than this.